On every episode of Outspoken, I close the show by talking to my dad, Stormin Norman Goldstein, who's calling from Toronto. Dad, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Very good, thank you. So 3 questions for you. What was it like, as far as you remember, when your parents, who we call Bobby and Zadie, came to Canada as war refugees and survivors from Poland and Russia? Was it easy for them to assimilate in North America?
No, it wasn't very easy. There was huge language differences, and there was a huge cultural difference. But mostly the problem was that the domestic Jews didn't understand and appreciate what the survivors had went through. So the survivors learned not to talk about their experience except amongst themselves, and basically they went silent. The Canadian Jews were giving expressions like, that's the past, let bygones, be grateful and happy that you're in Canada. I mean, the Canadians were interested in sports and movies and pastimes that were given short shrift by the more serious survivors. Basically, they called the Canadians Yankee Doodles. They would make fun of them because
there was a
of their shallowness.
There was a cognitive dissonance. They just couldn't relate to them. And what were Bobby and Zadie and their contemporaries, what was their attitude towards charity and reparations? I mean, weren't there organizations there to help them assimilate?
Well, there were organizations that helped them. They weren't overly helpful, but they did help them a little bit, especially in learning language and going for language classes. But basically, they were mostly on their own. They would get together, all of them, and talk about what to do, and they learned how to go and be scrappers and learn to start businesses or get some jobs.
So what's your whole take on the issue of the Claims Conference having such significant money in reserves while the basic needs of Holocaust survivors around the world are not being met?
Well, it's quite surprising that this group still has hundreds of millions of dollars available to them, and I would say that 80-90% of the Holocaust survivors have already passed on. And what are they going to be doing now with this money? Who's running these organizations? What is their goal?
Well, it's the very North American Jews that couldn't, I guess, relate to the Holocaust survivors. Thank you so much, Dad, for coming on, as always.
Well, it's very nice to be with you again. Thanks for inviting me.
On this episode of Outspoken, we spoke about an issue that is viewed as controversial by many, but which is really very cut and dry. Our survivor community must receive the financial assistance they need to live in dignity. The only thing that's controversial about this issue is that they are not receiving the care that they require, and that the main organization tasked with serving as the trustee for monies that are supposed to be used for survivor assistance is apparently not doing its job to the best of its abilities, is not distributing enough money to cover basic costs, and using money that is not theirs to fund other types of communal programs. The fact that so many survivors are currently living at or beneath the poverty line, while millions of dollars remain in the accounts of the Claims Conference, should be a pressing concern for the Jewish community as a whole, and an issue that we must be able to speak about openly and without any reservations. I remain incredibly disappointed that the Claims Conference refused to appear on the program and give the issue the respect it deserves through open and honest dialogue. In fact, I would argue that the Jewish community is entitled to hear from the Claims Conference, given that they operate as a trustee of survivor funds. They have an obligation to answer questions raised about the use of said funds by the survivors themselves, like Charles and Zahava, and all of Sam Dubbin's clients. Instead, the behavior of the Claims Conference demonstrates a dangerous arrogance and operates as a slap on the face of survivors who continue to ask the question, why aren't our basic needs for medicine, for housing, for home care being met? I am also taken aback at the fear and hesitation that I encountered when I approached community members and organizations and journalists about the issue. Some simply don't want to speak out perhaps out of fear of either jeopardizing the grant monies they do currently receive, or being retaliated against, or causing intercommunal discord. I want to profoundly thank Sam, Naomi, Barbara, Charles, and Zahava for their willingness to speak about this important topic. And I want to thank you, our audience, for joining us on this episode of Outspoken. Until next time, and remember, enforce your rights, cherish your heritage, and be outspoken in your defense of the truth.